welcome to Roses and Rosé Live. I am Lauren Zima, and of course, we are here to recap another fabulous episode of ABC's The Bachelorette. This week was hometowns, and I am joined now by a man who's actually in his hometown. Ben Higgins is Skyping in live from Indiana. Hi, Ben.
Hey, Lauren. Hello, everybody at ET.
Oh, thank you. I mean, Ben, you know, I never know how to intro you anymore. You have so many jobs. Incredible board member and proponent of the wonderful charity Humanity and Hope, co-founder of Generous Coffee, coffee with a good message, former bachelor, of course, and also now restaurant owner. You have your restaurant in Denver, too.
I do. So if you're in Denver, come on out, hang out. Yeah, you know, surprisingly enough, life after The Bachelor continued for me. I still try to find things to keep me busy.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. All right, Ben, I think this is a perfect episode to get into with you because you're such an emotionally in tune guy, and these were some incredibly tear-jerking moments on Hometowns, right? I don't know if I've cried this much watching a Hometowns episode. What did you think overall? It felt like a very different first half than second half.
I'm surprised, honestly, that you haven't become a little bit desensitized to any parts of this show. I used to cry during this show, and then I cried throughout my whole show, and I don't feel like I cry much anymore, except some of these stories really do pull at me. I get it. This was an emotional time, and I guess the better question I want to ask is why? Like, why did we feel so emotionally invested into these hometowns? Is it because the character development and how much we like these characters, or was it just the emotion and sensitivity from the families? And I think for me, the family always has. It's just really hard for me to process how much of a weight this takes on the family. I knew how much it took on my parents. I know that my parents struggled with this whole process. I know that they oftentimes struggled with what to say on camera and what not to say and how honest they wanted to be. And it's hard. You sign up for it as a contestant. You don't let your family sign up for it. And this week, I think we saw that of just how difficult it truly is for a family to have somebody that they love come home with a partner that they know nothing about.
Yeah, they come home, you haven't seen them in weeks, they're telling you, oh, I love this person. I mean, just the emotion from you coming back. We started with Peter, Pilot Peter Weber in Westlake Village, the location of the Bachelor Mansion. And Peter and his family were so cute. I just felt so much love from this family, and I felt like I was smiling with them, I was crying with them. But Ben, I want to ask you about a moment right before they arrived, when Peter was driving Hannah, and Hannah found something in Peter's car, and it was a condom.
Yeah.
I need your behind-the-scenes insight on this. Like, when somebody comes to your hometown, now they're coming into your house, like, does production give you any tips on how to make your house or your car look camera ready? Or is there so much fun to be had in this person diving through your stuff and putting everything on camera? We don't really see people's bedrooms ever. Why don't they go into the bedrooms?
Well, I think during the season of The Bachelor, I actually went into the Ferguson twins' bedrooms.
Oh.
If you remember that.
Because they still lived at home, yes.
They still lived at home, and we were in Vegas, and so I actually went over and said hi to their family. So I did go to their bedroom there. I think this is a really great moment for the show. I think this whole season has paralleled a lot of things kind of with Caitlin Bristow's season, where it's opened up the conversation to talk about sex and what sex is and how people have sex, and you know, to keep it safe and to also discuss it in an adult manner. And this is just a funny moment. Like, he has a condom. Like, is it that big of a deal? Like, at least but here's the thing about Peter, though. This is the part I don't get. So we find a condom in his car. Not a big deal at all. I just think it's a funny little moment. But now, like, we've seen Peter make out in a sauna or get really down in a sauna, and then we find a condom in his, like, super nice car. But in our minds as viewers, Peter's still the sweet guy, like, still the little innocent guy, like, still the little kid that, like, we just really are rooting for. But he's proven to us throughout the show that he might have the most edge out of anybody.
Interesting. So do you think people aren't really getting the full picture or seeing the full picture on Peter?
No, I think we are. I just think like
We're
viewers
not
like
like
it.
acknowledging it, right? We're still seeing. If I see what you're saying, if a different guy had gone down this road, he might be like sexy guy, or there was a lot of alluding to Tyler being a player, but we're not really
Uh-huh.
seeing that with Peter, even though he's had these incredibly sexy moments with Hannah.
Yeah, what if we were to find a condom in Tyler's boat? That'd be that'd be wacky. I'm sure we would be commenting on it differently than we are Peter. But the production doesn't give you a lot of insight in how to fix your house up. I know for me, my family, before I got home, they had bought all new lawn furniture. They had literally like repainted the inside of the house a little bit. They had mowed the lawn. Like they had gone through wild of things
They were
to
getting
get the house
camera ready. I love it.
to get it ready. Here's the funniest part. Joke was on them. I was sent home on Caitlin's season 1 week before hometowns.
Well, did a little spring cleaning.
Uh-huh.
How long does a hometown date last?
It really all day. I mean, I think typically, you have your date with the bachelor, bachelorette in the morning, and you kind of mess around your town. And then the afternoons, really from 2 to 7, 2 to 8, you're at the house, hanging out, eating, meeting the family, talking to the family, and then heading back off to really a next hometown the next day. So hometown week is a brutal week.
Yeah.
It's really tiring, but the dates last all day.
I do want to talk a little bit more about that Peter observation because I think it's such a good one. I sort of wonder if it's that boyish look he has that makes us not lean player towards him. Like, what is it, do you think?
Yeah, it's the boyish look. It's still, I think, his personality. I think if you hung out with Peter, you'd be like, yeah, we know what you like. Like, you can get hot and steamy and have a great time, but you also want to be a respectable dude. Like, you are a respectable guy. You're not a player. We're not worried about the way that you're going to venture out on a partner. You're talented. Obviously, you're smart. You have some skill sets that we admire. I think Peter kind of feels like this season's like most full package on a guy, and so we see this and we just don't question his intentions. Like, okay, he's a guy who has sex and he has a condom in his car. Like, wild.
I liked that he said he flies safe, he does everything safe. Some people have said that you and Peter look a little bit alike, that Peter gives them Ben Higgins vibes. Do you see it?
I mean, I would be honored. I think if people seem to like him, so that means people must have not hated me. So if people are saying that I look a little bit like Peter, act a little bit like Peter, then I'm thrilled. I don't have as nice a car as Peter. I drive a 2008 Ford Escape that I've had since high school, and I also don't fly a plane. But yeah. I'm sure. I think I like Peter. I think he's probably my favorite going in to the last few weeks.
Your favorite for Hannah or just your favorite?
Probably my favorite for Hannah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good going on there. You've seen a good relationship. You've seen a lot of laughter. You've obviously seen the physical connection that they have.
As she said, their chemistry is a 10 out of 10. But one thing I can't get over is the fact that, hometowns are, and we'll talk more about Jed's date, but hometowns always feel super significant because the families ask, are you in love? Where are you at? And those feelings conversations happen. And at this point, Jed is the only person that Hannah has said she is falling in love with to that person. So it feels like Jed's still the front runner for me, just based on where Hannah's feelings are at.
Quite honestly, it's hard for me to even picture that right now, Lauren. Like, after what we found out about him.
Meaning you don't want them to be together.
Yeah, and it's just hard for me to even envision it and see it right now. Like, we've given, I feel like as a fan, I've kind of given up on Jed. And I don't know if that's fair to him or not, but it's just kind of how I feel and what I think. But yeah, I mean, he probably is the front runner. Except the show, if he is going to have a big issue at the very end if he comes out with Hannah. I think it's going to have to confront some major topics that will not be fun for Jed.
I keep saying if they end up together and if everything we've heard about Jed is true, then it's going to be the most anticipated after the final rose in years, I think.
I'm definitely coming back for that. I came back for a lot of them, but I will make sure I'm back for that one.
You're like, they always have me in that audience, and now I really want to be there. It's a long taping. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our boy, who, we didn't find any condoms in his boat, but he was still great. Tyler and Hannah. Tyler we did get like shirtless moments. Of course, I get it. They're on the beach, Jupiter, Florida, getting each other lathered up and sunscreened. I would say probably the worst sunscreen application I've ever seen on television. They did not tan evenly that day.
A lot of burning, a lot of finger swiping.
Yeah. So Tyler and Hannah, like, I just thought overall they had a solid hometown date. They had sweet moments together. They're dancing, having fun. He's catching her jumping through the air. And then, I mean, just like I was with Peter's family, I was in tears when Tyler met up with his dad, who had been ill. And he had these great moments with him and his family. What did you think? Where are Tyler's feelings for Hannah at right now? Because he did say, I want to be able to say I love her. I think I will be able to say that, but he didn't say it.
Yeah, this is the one that gets pretty personal for me. I don't know if I even ever shared it when I was on the show, but my dad had triple bypass surgery 2 weeks before the filming of The Bachelor happened. And we decided that I should still go on the show and that I should still pursue the relationships that existed from the show. But I left for The Bachelor not knowing that my dad was really still going to make it or not. He was healthier and he was recovering, but he was still in the hospital really up until the week before I left. So I know how it feels and the pressures and the confusion that you feel when you're on this show and something else is going on back home that you don't have a lot of idea of what's happening on. Like it's tough, and it made me stay awake many times at night. But it also, in a sense, motivated me to still pursue these women on the show, because I was like, how cool is it going to be that my dad is going to be in one of the most threatening times of his life to be able to see me happy and joy-filled and celebrating something like love. But yeah, this was personal for me. It's tough. It's really not easy. I hope, and I know I'm like blabbering here, but I hope the viewers at any level can understand just how difficult it is to be on the road for 3 months without communication with family, knowing that something else is going on back home that is life-threatening.
I tell people that because they ask me, should I go on the show? And I say, I think one of the things that gets hidden the most is how difficult it is to be suddenly cut off from your family and friends for months. I mean, that's hard if you stay on the show for a long time. So that was a beautiful moment to see, and I'm glad his dad is doing better. And, of course, we all send love to your dad. You have the cutest family. What did you think of Tyler not dropping the L-bomb to Hannah? And, by the way, Peter didn't either. Peter told his mom he was in love with Hannah, but he didn't tell Hannah. What do you think? Do you need to drop the L-bomb in hometowns?
No, soon. I mean, if you're going to do this thing, you better start talking pretty soon, but not in hometowns. It's rushed. You don't get a lot of time one-on-one to talk. And I think next week is the week that we'll start really seeing these guys feel like they have the opportunity to open up and share their emotions and feelings. I think a little commentary on Tyler is, I think Tyler and Hannah get along great. I think the one takeaway I have from this hometown is that it's the one that felt like maybe the best hometown without having a lot of like depth to it, and like not meaning with their outside stories, but the two of them, I don't think it shows that they were any closer to getting married. I just think it looks like they're dating and having a good time doing it, which is fine. But I don't know really how Tyler feels.
I keep thinking about it. It's so funny. Like, people were actually kind of sending me some tweets because last week I didn't talk about this cute moment where Tyler and Peter hugged each other when Peter came back with a rose. And on the one hand, it was such a cute, like, bro friendship. They were so happy to see each other moment. But on the other hand, it's funny. Luke is getting so much criticism, rightfully so, and we're going to talk about Luke. But Luke is also, like, the only one who's like, I'm here for Hannah, and so I'm not super strongly bonding with you guys. Do you think there's something to, like, I don't know, or in the show environment, are you able to have that close of a friendship with the guy who at this point is like one of the last few guys vying for this woman who you allegedly are falling in love with?
Yeah, it gets weird. Sean Booth and I had this friendship, and it was a friendship that still exists today, and I love Sean, and I loved him during the show, but it was weird. He would come back at night and he would confide in me about everything that happened with Caitlyn. And it would be awkward and I wouldn't like it. But we would do it because you don't have anybody else. Like, this is your friends at this point. So I do think you can. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I just think it happens. Like, if you're a decent human and you live in a house with 26 different guys and you're there for 3 months or whatever it is, at the end, you're going to have friendships with these people. If not, it's awkward and it's weird. And I don't know who, like, I mean, if you're literally locked in a house with somebody and you can't talk to them, it's going to feel like prison.
Yeah, fair. All right, let's talk about Luke. So we had some discussion from Peter about his faith a little bit. Hannah also found, she found, one of those, I don't know what they call those cards in his car, along with the condom, a saint. And his family prayed at dinner. But with Luke, we really got into it. He took her to Sunday school, and he spoke to the group about a story we've heard from him before about how he found God in the shower and talked about God turning negatives into positives in your life. Hannah seemed really touched by all this to me. What was your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably came off on television a lot more awkward than it was in real life. I grew up in the church. I still go to church. These moments of kind of vulnerability are not uncommon, but they need to be done in wise and correct ways. And I think this was just one that felt a little bit forced, especially watching it on television. And we've heard the story before. Also, and I don't want to discredit Luke's story because it's his story and it's his, transformation to who he is today. But a lot of people are probably watching this who are not Christians or have no idea of what's happening. And they're like, this is weird. They're laying hands on each other. And Luke's big moment of discovery was having sex, like too much sex. Like that just doesn't compute with me. And I think that I think it a little bit did a disservice to his story. I also think that he does a really terrible job at communicating at all level in anything he ever says.
Well, when you say things don't compute, what do you mean? Like, you don't believe him?
No, I just think we dismiss it a little bit, probably. I mean, I've been in these scenarios before. I know that people's stories matter, but if you're not a Christian or if you don't have the kind of moral compass that maybe a Christian conservative Christians hold to, then you hear things like, I got real big into partying and I had too much sex, and you go, well, yeah, that's all half my life has been. Like, what's the problem? Yeah. So I think it just doesn't register. Like, I don't know if people are watching that feeling for Luke as much as maybe they even felt for Tyler just walking in to see his dad, healthy or getting healthier. I don't think
what
people
you're saying.
felt for Luke.
It's that reasoning of, is the reason coming from a strong emotional desire, or is the reasoning come from your thinking, oh, my life's wrong, I'm doing wrong things? And, this is a topic I wanted to get into with you because we keep saying, we did a whole piece here on our website about how this season of The Bachelorette, probably more than any Bachelor or Bachelorette season in the show's history, is intersecting and talking about sex and religion and the issues that people have with those two things and how they cross over more than ever before. Where do you stand on this big conversation that it looks like we'll get probably next week between Luke and Hannah about sex and him walking off the show and her telling him, my husband would never say the things you've said to me?
Yeah, definitely. Well, a little bit of it, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit envious and jealous of this season because faith is such an important thing in my life. It is the reason why I'm today, and a lot of the things that I did and said don't make sense without Jesus being at the center of it. And so I'm a little bit saddened that this wasn't a part of my story. So I am jealous. That's how I want to start this. The second piece is, as a Christian myself, I get that you want to hold yourself to some type of moral standard. That one of the core beliefs as Christians is that you have value and you have a purpose and that you should treat yourself and others with respect. Ultimately, though, within that whole dialogue needs to be respect for others. And I think we should never push our own beliefs or convictions off on somebody else, expecting them to live up to some type of standard that we've created in our mind or that we feel like is best for us, no matter what your belief system. But I also think that dialogue is important. So, for example, if Luke here has a really big problem with Hannah having sex before marriage, I think it is completely okay and fair for him to discuss it with her. I think he should say, hey, this is something that is important to me. This is something that I've struggled with in my past that now I think is something I'm trying to fix. I want to have this conversation so that we are on a better understanding of who we are as people. Instead, I felt like he shamed her and pushed her in a corner and said, you need to hold up to this standard. You need to believe what I believe. You need to do what I do. And you need to also follow along because I am the man in this relationship. And I think all of that is so wrong. I think it gives a really bad idea of what Christianity is. I think it really misrepresents what Christianity is trying to tell people. And ultimately, when I look at my God, I look at a God that says, hey, you just have value, and that sex before marriage, if you have it, it's powerful. And if you have it after marriage, it's powerful. But sex is powerful, and so treat it like that. And I think we can all agree on that. But at no level should we ever shame or make somebody feel bad for a choice they've made to be physical with somebody else.
Ben, you said that beautifully. Thank you for saying all that. I want to move on to Jed, unless there's anything else you want to have said about.
No, honestly, I could talk about it all day. I'm just jealous. I'm really pissed off that I didn't get to talk about this as much as this season is, and so I'm just jealous.
Did you have those conversations, but they just weren't shown on air?
Yeah, definitely. And I think everybody does. I mean, if you look back on past bachelors and bachelorettes, a lot of them come from some type of faith. Christian or not, they have some type of faith or belief system. Those conversations have to be had, especially before you propose. So they are had, but they don't always make great television. And maybe, just maybe, that's why these are being shown, because they do make entertaining television.
Yeah.
So entertaining that I'm getting upset about it right now.
Well, and Luke is somebody who made it really far, and his faith was so much a part of so many of those conversations, and in a very polarizing way. So I get it. Ben, the thing is, you're a more open-hearted person, so it probably wasn't the most dramatic television. So let's get into Jed. I don't want to shock anyone, but on Jed's hometown date, Hannah and him, he takes her to record a song with him. And then Jed does tell Hannah he loves her. And what I could not stop watching with such fascination were the conversations that Jed's family was having with both him and Hannah, because they were so flat out kind of against the relationship, were surprised by it. Jed's mom was saying, I don't know how this can be real. Jed's dad was saying, I can't wrap my head around it. And all it made me think was, were they under the impression that their son was going on this show just for his career? And are they having a really hard time processing him telling them that he's having real feelings?
Yeah, I mean, let's put ourselves in Jed's family spot for a second. And again, I need to be better, Lauren, at not speaking ill about these people that are on the show, because I end up meeting them, and sometimes I like them. And so, I need to be really good about this. But here's one scenario that I don't know if I'm okay with. Jed had a girlfriend before the show. That's been shown. She's talked about it quite a bit. I wonder at what point Jed started to forget about the girl back home and start to really focus on Hannah, or if that was ever something that happened in his head. And I wonder if at any moment, we've had Jed right away speaking at the beginning of the season about how he came on the show to be famous, to get known. And then all of a sudden he's liking this girl. Well, that could be a product of your environment. And I also don't know now, looking back on that conversation, if I respected that conversation at all, because I think at some level he was being a mastermind to protect what would ultimately come out at the end, which was that he wanted to play music a lot. Mm-hmm. So he's protecting himself. Final thought here is for the family. You have to understand that Jed literally went on a trip with this other girl right before the show started. They knew about it. They'd seen it. They had probably talked to him about it. In their minds, he's still with this girl. Then he goes on the show and comes back with a new girl. I know my parents. They would not be thrilled with this scenario. It would not make sense to them. They would probably be super confused and really upset with me as a man if that's the behavior I was having.
You're frustrated with Jed.
Very frustrated, because it also gives a really bad look at the show. I know that Hannah has invested her heart into this whole thing. I know that there's hundreds of people that work on this show to make this thing happen. And you have guys like Jed coming on, making it super far towards the end, and it ends up discrediting the whole story that's happened all through this whole season. And that, for me, I take offense to, because the show's been really good to me, and it's really good to a lot of people.
I'm with you. I mean, I was thinking Jed probably isn't able to get an off-mic moment with his parents. If he was, I wonder what he would have said to them if he would have tried to explain things. They looked confused. I mean, you don't have any private moments with your family, right?
No private moments with the family. I bet if he would have had an off moment, he would have said, guys, trust me, I've got a plan. This is all going to work out in the end. Didn't.
We have a lot of questions for Jed. He did take to Instagram and said, look, please don't threaten my family. Of course, I get that. But we have a lot of questions for him, and I can't wait to ask him those questions. Ben Higgins, we have to wrap it. Thank you for answering all of my questions. Guys, follow Ben on social if you don't already. Check out Generous Coffee if you're a coffee addict like me. Ben Higgins, thank you so much. This has been Roses and Rosé Live. Bye, Ben.